time with this value.
We will put Mr. Hobbs on your case, but they assured us, and I think you'd be right, Mr. Billings, in which that's the snapshot date, and that we will, but hard to be it for me to argue with those.
But I still haven't heard back what the result of that is.
Interestingly, we just had a report on how many people had objected, and we had some who have objected to their low value, we have some that objected to their high value, we have some that have objected because they've objected.
Yeah.
If you could find, Mr. Billings, a better way for local government to raise finance than property rates, we will guarantee you say to it. But that is the crux. That's
I agree.
The basis of local government financing, irrespective of all the work the local government New Zealand has done, the Shan report has done, we need to find a way forward, and until we all stand together and say this is not good enough, we're going to be fobbed off. Comments, please. It will be interesting as we have Mr. Smith to take us through in terms of what a rate cap means, where do we get the extra money to run the district from? Because I don't believe we could actually cut expenditure of our district lower than it is now. And as I go through this, there'll be more people asking for things than people saying, don't do that.
Well, as a cap, our emphasis is a cap on the rate increase. And as emphasised in the consultation document, the revaluation just recuts the pot as opposed to growing the thing. And we're simply saying that dairy farmers at 10%, the pie has been recut, to our detriment, and to quite a significant extent. And we're saying that we share, you have no more sympathetic hearing about the absurdity of property value rates and trying to run modern local government than with feed farmers, we've been. But we're saying if we could set that to one side, just look at dairy, at the dairy farmers as part of the community. They have a 10% rate increase, your average rate revenue increase is 2.9. We're only asking that we use the remission mechanism to bring our increase back to 5%. So that would work out of your reserves or going back into the general. So we don't see the necessity to cut services as a consequence.
Well, I won't have as much money. My final question is,
if you recut the pie, you'll still have the same.
my final question is that you've been concentrating on dairy farmers. Would you expect us to put that rate cap on pastoral farmers, lifestyle blocks, beef and other farmers who may well have received a higher rate than that 5%? Would that 5% rate cap be a universal rate cap?
Yes.
So this would go across my lifestyle block, people who have gone up, that my pastoral farmers who have gone up probably 30%, not that, but that. So you're speaking on behalf of all the rural industries of saying a 5% cap. Is that what you're asking for?
Yes, and we believe, and again, we're not totally experts at local government financing, yourself and the chief executive, of course. But as we understand it, setting a dollar amount of $400 and alongside a percentage, and so your rates are capped at a $400 increase, so no more than 400 or no more than 5%, whichever is the greater. So that avoids getting perverse outcomes. In Chris's case, he has if he's going at 10%, that's a $2,000 increase. So we would say $400 or 5%, whichever is the greater. In that case, the 5% would be the greater for 1,000. So if you see what I mean, we feel that is safe, and it's a non-expert proposal for expert people, but we think that would be safe to put across the district without blowing your rate review out of the water.
I've allowed, because it's such a big issue, I've allowed some extra time in that because our farming community does deserve that speech. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It's going to be an interesting discussion as we go through, looking at it.
Thank you all
Thank you very much.
We can still live at Coxagena.
Yeah.
Mr Simpson, submission number 68. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm speaking to the two submissions that I made, one relating to economic development and the other one relating to the airfield redevelopment, resurfacing of the airfield. And I'm quite happy these two are together because there's a lot of crossover, a lot of synergy involved in those two submissions. But first of all, I want to quote from one of the council, from a lot of the council's own documents. At the foot of most council minutes and some of the documents we have here today, it says that the statement, the council says it's looking for an outcome that existing businesses thrive and new businesses start up in the district. And the strategy for achieving that is stimulate economic development by assisting existing and attracting new businesses while encouraging diversity. Encourage education and training to improve the employment opportunities of the district's residents. Now, that's really good stuff. It's excellent. That strategy is very, very good. The problem is that if we turn to the report the council had commissioned for the redevelopment of legal place by Visitor Solutions, on page 12 they say the defined number of businesses in the Tokoroa area have remained largely consistent since 2000, but there's been an overall decline in employee numbers during the same period. So, although we have an excellent strategy, its implementation seems to be somewhat flawed because it has achieved no results in Tokoroa. The report the council itself had commissioned very clearly states that no increase in the number of businesses since 2000. That's an awfully long time. I would have thought that looking at that particular report, one of the highest priorities on the council's agenda has to be to sort out why the economic development strategy is either wrong or not being implemented properly. That's a major crisis because it spins off into so many areas. We have a falling population because there's no new businesses, there's no new jobs. We have a problem with the central business district because when you don't have the people there, there's no one in the shops. So those are the things that we need to look at. Now, so we've no growth at all in 15 years. I've put a couple of suggestions in my submission. I won't go over them again because I'm sure everybody has read them. How we could focus on the strengths that our town has, our district has, because we've overlooked so many opportunities. Tokoroa was one of the first towns in the entire country to have ultra-fast broadband. And that meant we could have attracted some high-tech businesses that rely on that high-speed connectivity. It was a window of opportunity, and we ignored it. Now everyone's got ultra-fast broadband, so that's a waste of time. We've also had opportunities in terms of promoting the district through the media. We had a news story here that ran. I got calls from all over the world, emails from all over the world, saying, I just read about your little town in my paper, from Switzerland, from Norway, from the UK, because we had a doctor opposition for a new doctor that couldn't be filled. Now, that was quite negative publicity, but we could have spun that. We could have turned that around, because I bet you Google is running hot with queries for Tokoroa. Everyone's going, what's Tokoroa? Where is it? Let's find out more about our town. Why doesn't anyone want to be adopted? We could have put up a web page, indexed it with Google, and we could have sold the town and the opportunities to the world. But we didn't. Another opportunity lost. You don't get many of these opportunities in a lifetime. We've lost two of them. There is still a third one, and that is the Tokoroa airfield. Now, in the submission, I gave you some figures on decline. I've actually, well, more than 2 years ago, I submitted a proposal here to leverage the Tokoroa airfield to create an international tourist attraction, an international model park. I even dumped a big wad of pledges on this very table, in which $40,000 worth of pledges came from all around the world to create this international model park, which people would come and visit from around the world and around the country. Now, the CEO told me he didn't really think that many of those people would honour those pledges. Well, if you go to my Patreon page on the internet, I'm sure you'll be able to find it. Look up Bruce Simpson, you'll see that those very same people are pledging me $40,000 a year, every year, and the money's in my bank account. So I think Mr. Hobbs was a little mistaken in that assumption. So the money is there, but we just say, we don't want it. We're rich enough, we don't need that money. That's really kind of sad. So, I'll just go to the next page in my notes. I also presented some evidence that all over the world, aviation was in decline. General aviation, full-size airplanes and pilots, it's in decline. Since I did that, more information's come in. For example, I found some publications from some major aviation news sources